Story 1. Mostly, I would tell myself to be consistent. There is no wrong path, so give any chosen path a genuine try. Avoid a something here, something there mentality. If that means choosing a trade, commit to it. If that means going to school, go to school and give it your all. Do not do random side tasks half-heartedly. Story 2. 1. Break up with that abusive partner. 2. Move away from my parents sooner. 3. Go away to college. 4. Have more fun. 5. Make friends outside my small hometown. Story 3. I would be more honest about my mental health struggles to begin with. Story 4. If I were 18 again, the first thing I would focus on is patience. Back then I felt like I needed to have everything figured out immediately. School, career, relationships, but life does not work that way. I would take more time to explore my interests and not rush into decisions just because it felt like everyone else had it all together. Spoiler, they did not. The biggest mistake I would avoid is caring too much about other people's opinions. I wasted so much energy trying to fit in or meet expectations that were not mine. I would tell my 18-year-old self to trust my instincts more and focus on what actually makes me happy instead of what looks good on paper. I would also start building good habits earlier, like saving money, taking care of my health, and not procrastinating on goals. I would definitely try to spend more time with family and loved ones. You do not realize how fast time goes until it is already gone. Story 5. I would do everything exactly the same, because I wouldn't have my kids without the path I've already carved. Story 6. I would save every penny I earned at work from 1995 until 2009, buy 100,000 bitcoins in 2009, sell them in 2024, and become a trillionaire. Story 7. I would choose a different university course. I would exercise more regularly and eat healthier food. I would socialize more. Story 8. I would get out of retail and into almost anything else. Maybe train to be an X-ray technician or something like that. Story 9. I would not have gotten on the train that took me to my first date with a manipulative, narcissistic, and selfish man 15 years older than me. This ruined my entire youth. Story 10. I would need to go back 2 more years and stay far away from my first boyfriend. Story 11. Spend more time with my dad. Socialize more and explore romantic relationships in college. Get in on the great stock and cryptocurrency hullabaloo of 2021. Make money, and set my family up for life. Watch the black and gold era of World Wrestling Entertainment NXT, All Elite Wrestling from its beginning, and the golden age of 2010's New Japan Pro Wrestling. Wait to get a PlayStation 4 to play Dragon Ball Xenoverse so I can transfer a hero to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Story 12. Do not marry the girl. Do not join the army. Move to a larger city. Who knows what will happen then? Story 13. I would not smoke cannabis every day during college. I would try to be calmer and less eccentric when talking to people, and to build relationships that last more than a year. I would also seek psychiatric help for attention deficit disorder and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Maybe then I would have been calm enough to feel successful. Story 14. I never did anything more than drink and smoke marijuana, and I later quit alcohol altogether. Story 15. Study hard and do not take up alcohol. Education can lift us out of poverty. Story 16. My situation at that age was awful. I would likely follow the same career path but focus more on taking care of myself physically, which I had neglected at the time. Story 17. I avoided therapy until I was 41 so I could become more comfortable with myself before I started getting gray hair. Story 18. I'd stay away from all human contact and live with dogs on a remote island. Story 19. Ask my mom to let me take a gap year before I attend university. Story 20. Do not get scared and sell the small bit I had in my individual retirement account after the tech bubble. It would have been enough to retire early. Dang it. Story 21. Do I have knowledge of the future? Because investing in Bitcoin would be the right choice. Anyway, I would take my life into my own hands sooner. No anxiety, no low self-esteem, more fun, and a more open worldview. Story 22. I would get out of the Mormon cult and actually live my life. Story 23. Stop using cannabis. Stop masturbating and watching pornography. Become a gas-safe registered engineer sooner. Start meeting people at bars and clubs sooner. Start going to the gym sooner. Most of what I do now at 28, I wish I had started earlier. From ages 18 to 23, I wasted potential time for self-improvement. I am here now. Story 24. I would immediately leave the cult. I cannot change the fact that I spent more than 25 years there. Story 25. Quit smoking and drinking, get proper medication, exercise regularly, and save money for when Bitcoin becomes widely adopted. Maybe be with Brandy, the woman from Bret Michaels' Rock of Love, like at the Warped Tour. Story 26. I would not have had children so early. I would learn everything I could about Bitcoin. I would avoid soul suckers and surround myself with quality people. I would do everything I could to stop Clinton from repealing the Glass-Steagall Act. Story 27. I would not go to a 4-year university right away. I would take a gap year to save money, go to the gym and church, and take time to figure out what I want to study. I would earn my associate degree at a community college, then transfer to a 4-year university. I would not drink alcohol or party. I would use the time to discover what truly brings me joy. One of the greatest gifts in life is knowing which career field suits you. When you are younger, you may assume that will come naturally, but it may not. I am 27 and have a graduate degree in a career I dislike and am not good at. Learn from my experience. Do not chase hedonistic pleasure. Hedonism can feel good, but it does not last. The joy that comes from contentment and spirituality lasts a lifetime. Story 28. I will study something different. I will avoid getting into a long-distance relationship. I will put myself out there more. Story 29. I took my time completing my college degree. I should have just gotten on with it and added a master's degree as well. Story 30. I should have gone to the doctor earlier. If I had, I would be less of a burden to people now, but I did not go because I did not want to burden them. Story 31. More sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I will buy as much Apple stock as I possibly can. Story 32. I would focus more on my health. I would have a steady exercise routine and a much better diet. I would not be 38 years old and struggling to regain a healthy weight. I would also save more money and buy less junk that I did not need. Story 33. Save all my money and invest it aggressively. Finish my degree. Acknowledge and feel my anger, but do not let it control my life. Story 34. Do not put too much value in people. Loyalty is not negotiable, and no one should force it on you if they have already shown their bad side. As a man, skip dating entirely. Do not commit because dating gives you the best options once you have your life together and have made something of yourself. Health and skills are the priorities until 30. After 30, enjoy being ahead of 95% of men. Story 35. Please, no. I do not want to gain 20 kilograms again. I just want to be 1 year younger. Story 36. I would probably avoid love at all costs. It brings nothing but pain and no gain. Story 37. Study something you like and that can make money. Travel more. Invest in Google and Bitcoin. Story 38. End the relationship as soon as possible in a way that will not lead her to make a false accusation against me. Story 39. I would tell my past self to make connections and gain any experience I could include on my curriculum vitae. I was so relaxed before that. Now I have only a teaching license and a bachelor's degree. Story 40. I should have taken the job in college that I was offered at a major internet service provider as a junior network engineer at their headquarters. I feel it would have put me farther along in my career than I am now. I turned it down at the time because I did not know how I would pay for living and food since I had no money. I should have taken a short-term loan and taken that chance. Story 41. I would start certain habits earlier and enjoy life more, but I think about it most days. I worry that if I could go back in time, I might lose important people or cause worse consequences. Sure, I would have a head start, but what if I lose my best friends, or a parent does not manage to beat a serious illness? What if I cause a worse accident than the one I avoided? Story 42. I would focus on a career path that brings me enjoyment and study to achieve that goal. Work takes up so much of life, and I regret not finding something I love. I have a decent job, but it does not interest me. I am 36, have a mortgage, and feel it is too late to get a degree and pursue something that gives me a sense of accomplishment. Story 43. I would not stress so much about moving out. I moved out at 19 and ended up having to move back home when I burned out because a boss was truly horrible and violated labor laws. It set me back several years and left me with intense anxiety about living on my own. I now have my first apartment of my own, which I moved into 9 months ago. All those fears are gone, but it took me a while to get here. Story 44. I wanted to go away for college, but many people encouraged me to stay home to save money and insisted that my suffering and hard work would be worth it. I am 23. I graduated a year ago and will be starting graduate school soon. I will be in debt anyway, and I regret not going away and enjoying my college years like my peers did. Story 45. It depends on the rules. Should I go back with my current knowledge, or send tips into a different timeline? I will begin pursuing financial independence and early retirement and work to make my finances more stable. I do not expect my mindset to change much. Story 46. I wish I had spent more time with my father before he died when I was 20. Probably could not have been avoided, but I could have been with him more. If I had started contributing to an employer-matched 401k retirement plan when I began working full-time, my retirement savings would be much better. Everything else shaped the person I am today, and I would not change anything. For better or worse, the journey made me who I am. Story 47. There is so much I would change and do differently that it does not even make sense. Even if I did, who knows where I would end up, what other mistakes I would make, or what opportunities one would miss. Most importantly, I would not want any change to risk leading me away from my partner. Story 48. Assuming I knew then what I know now, I would avoid certain women, change career paths, mine Bitcoin, and place 10 bets of £100 each on Leicester City to win the Premier League at 5,000 to 1 odds. I would also avoid getting into a certain car, never start smoking, and focus on fitness and nutrition. Story 49. Save money. Go away to college. Take more risks. Be more open with relationship partners. Story 50. Be more assertive with my parents about my right to privacy and to live my own life, whether I live at home or not. Story 51. I would try harder. I have had a fine life with my skills, but I always think I could have gone further with my artistic dreams if I had worked harder. I have always been at the lower end of the top tier. With some effort, I could have reached the middle of the top tier. Story 52. I cut everyone off and do my best to avoid people. That is impossible. Story 53. Agree and go with the girl who asked me to prom, even if I have to walk there. Story 54. 1. Finish high school. I obtained a general educational development certificate. 2. Deprioritize friendships. I stayed in certain places and made sacrifices for social connections. I should have pursued opportunities instead. 3. Become a general contractor. They rarely do anything interesting with their money, but they have a lot of it. Story 55. Will I be going back in time? I would avoid the mistake of not buying stocks and cryptocurrency. Story 56. I really did not know what I wanted to do in college, so I mostly took different classes. That probably set off a butterfly effect, and I would likely encounter a whole new set of mistakes. Story 57. Date my husband sooner. Do not go to college. Start my union career sooner. Travel more before having children. Story 58. Think more clearly about where my best interests lie. Do positive things for my life and embrace my creativity instead of suppressing it. Story 59. I do not know if I would restart my life and make different choices, even with what I know now. So many things, both good and bad, would be affected. Changing my career path would mean never meeting my first wife, and my daughters and grandchildren would never exist. They are the most meaningful part of my life. My life would not be better without them. Having them was worth the absolute nightmare of that marriage. I would not want to change even smaller things. I would miss my wonderful dog. Story 60. I was 18 during the recession. I honestly do not think I could have done anything differently. Story 61. I definitely should have been more mature in the relationships I have had. My ex went through a lot, but she would never say so. It ended badly between us, but now, 17 years later, I am looking back. All the signs were there, but I never noticed them. Story 62. Invest time in learning skills like public speaking, emotional intelligence, and financial literacy. Story 63. Either pursue my firefighting dream or follow my career at that time. Story 64. I am sitting across from my beautiful, smart, funny, and incredibly kind wife who thinks the world of me. I have a career that I love. I believe that all of my mistakes led me to this point. Things happen to you for a reason. Story 65. Invest and save money, but also prioritize relationships more. I ended up cutting off many people when I became a workaholic to cope with depression. Story 66. Honestly, I would avoid becoming friends with a particular person. He was not trustworthy. Story 67. I should have stopped believing in God sooner and gotten the mental health help I needed back then instead of thinking prayer would help me. Too late now. Story 68. I wish I had found God earlier. It has brought a lot of peace to my life. I have better discipline with money. No debt except for investments, strict spending, and saving the surplus. I wish I had found someone special to settle down with sooner. Dating drains your energy. I wish I had been kinder when I was younger. Story 69. I focus way too much on girls and hooking up instead of my friends, family, and career. Story 70. I didn't make any mistakes. I went to college, married a great woman, and went to grad school. I had a 35-year career and 3 children. I have been married for 51 years and have 4 grandchildren. I'm just getting old. Shoot me. Story 71. Oh my God. I will live my life. I will leave my house at 18, get a job, and travel. I have 2 children. I adore them, but it is a lot of work being a single mother. If I were 18 again, I would have chosen another path. Story 72. Dental hygiene would be much more important. Regular exercise would be more important too. I would save more money and make choices for myself instead of for others. I would be less afraid to take up space. Story 73. I will associate with more diverse, positive friends and put boys on the back burner. Story 74. The only thing I would change is that I would have told my best friend not to go anywhere that night. Maybe he would still be alive. I told him I would pick him up for school in the morning. The following day, I saw him in the hospital with tubes and medical equipment attached to him. He later died of his wounds. Story 75. I would seek therapy and begin taking medication to address my anxiety and depression. In college, I would try to party more or at least be more social. Story 76. I would not purposely skip family trips. I would not have a boyfriend out of pity. I would have suitors and spend time on more worthwhile pursuits such as volunteering. I would pursue flirtations that go nowhere, just for fun. I would not go on a date if my gaydar alerted me. I would be friends with him, though. I would choose the profession I am passionate about, teaching, from the start, rather than the harder but more prestigious option. I wish I had taken the offer to lead the volunteer club. Story 77. I have fucked up a good amount and I would not change anything. My mistakes helped build the person I am today. Story 78. Don't go to university. Get a trade. Ditch stupid friends. Invest in property. Travel the world. And make art. Do I keep my memories? So I would have to mourn my kids. That would be hell. Story 79. I was too lucky the first time to go back. I have been married 33 years to the most gorgeous, sweetest woman I have ever met. We have 2 grown children who have children of their own. I wouldn't change a thing. Story 80. I should have taken the dream job I was offered instead of listening to my ex and working in retail hell. Story 81. Stop constantly thinking I am too old for anything. I felt so far behind that I did not want to do anything. Story 82. Main point. Do not take on debt. The rest are hit or miss life lessons we may need. We do not need debt affecting us in our 40s. Story 83. No contact. Get my cat sooner. Find my husband sooner. Story 84. Save money. Do better in school. Invest your money. Avoid toxic people. Do not buy unnecessary items. Story 85. Restart my dream. Work harder at it. Fix all my bad habits. Take greater chances. Be the person I was meant to be, not the one I fell into. Story 86. When I got the chance at a job across the country right after college, I took it instead of bowing to pressure and choosing the safer route of staying in my home state where my family and my boyfriend, now husband, lived. Story 87. I'm sorry you're feeling so distressed. Are you in immediate danger or thinking about harming yourself? If so, call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, tell me your country and I will help find local resources. The biggest mistake I made was seeing it through. I had many fears about the future and was born into difficult circumstances. My life is not worth living for reasons beyond my control. To correct this mistake, I would have ended it sooner. Story 88. Honestly, I would end things mutually with my high school sweetheart. I followed her through college long distance only to be dropped after she graduated. Story 89. Get diagnosed and treated with medication for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and begin therapy. I am not saying it ruined my life. By many metrics I have lived a fine life, but the condition had a strong influence on my choices and outcomes. Other areas, like my health and finances, have a much clearer path when the condition is managed. I would have missed out on some things. My life might have been more boring, but also more consistent, more stable, and much less stressful. For example, I assume I would have done better in school, which would have given me a better chance of getting into some of the large local companies my friends and peers did. I did not meet the grade point average requirements, so I ended up spending a couple of years in several unknown, less than ideal jobs while my friends gained 2 years of experience at employers that look good on a resume. Story 90. Don't date that girl after college. She was a disaster. Story 91. Join the Air Force at 18 instead of the Navy because I had the opportunity. Do not get married at 19. Story 92. Enjoy it. Be happy. Relax. Do what you want, not what others think you should. Story 93. Consider taking a break from religious activities. Seek treatment for anxiety. Reach out to the man. Story 94. I turned 18 2 weeks ago. If being 18 again means going back to my birthday, I would get out of bed more during Thanksgiving break, work faster, apply to college sooner, and make sure the break is not a waste of time. Story 95. First things first, I am not getting caught in that flood that took my truck. I miss that piece of junk every day. Story 96. I would avoid dating until I was old enough to handle a relationship. Story 97. Do I also go back in time? I do not want to be 18 in this situation. Story 98. Don't move in with that mediocre man. He is not right for you. This is your prime time. Move in with your girlfriends and enjoy a fun single lifestyle. Story 99. I would save money, be more outgoing with women, and start exercising sooner. Story 100. Save money, show discipline with schoolwork, and avoid falling down the religion rabbit hole. Story 101. Stay fit without focusing on sports. Study more intensively. Travel more. Maintain a healthy work-life balance. Save more. Story 102. I'd get on with it instead of wasting more than a decade smoking weed, which I hated, and hanging out with people who didn't respect me. Turns out I didn't need to put up with any of that shit. Story 103. I would have the same behavioral tendencies at a much younger age. I would probably be more confident and therefore end up with a sexually transmitted disease or a drug overdose, but I would invest in Bitcoin. Story 104. Can I have 14 instead? At 18, I already set my path for failure. Story 105. I do not make mistakes. Whatever you do, life will be difficult anyway. Story 106. I kind of like where I ended up, mistakes and all. Some mistakes led to successes. I do not want a do-over. Thank you. Story 107. I am going to school for something that will actually make me money. Story 108. I'd focus more on school. I coasted by and never put in effort, which made it harder to get started in life, and I probably could have gone to better schools with higher grades and test scores. The real kicker is that it is not hard to put in effort at the high school or undergraduate level. What seemed difficult actually was not, and the amount of effort needed to stand out is minimal. Story 109. I would learn to play guitar and start a band. You only get one life, and being a famous rock star would be one of the best ways to live it. Story 110. At 18, I met a woman I should have appreciated more and planned a future with. I should have joined the service, learned a trade, and not partied so much. She waited for 8 years and then left. I wish I could have that time back. Story 111. I would invest all my money in Bitcoin and not miss the entry point. Story 112. Oh my God. There is not enough space here to capture it all, so here are the highlights. 1. Get real help, guidance, and support after my mother had a brain hemorrhage when I was 20. 2. Do not have sex with the man the summer after graduation because he hurt your well-being. 3. Have the wherewithal to realize that I drank far too much as an 18-year-old and to ask for help. 4. Finish college and pursue art and writing. Story 113. I would not worry so much about getting others to like me or about finding someone to date. I would not get so hung up on my bad decisions. I would vow to do better and move on. Story 114. I could do things differently, but I wouldn't bother. Except for working for one corporation, I would not have taken the job. Other than that, my life isn't perfect, but it's mine. I may as well roll with it. Story 115. I was already done for at 18. Maybe if I had gone back to 9, I would not have tried half the things I should not have been exposed to. Story 116. Call my dad and reunite the family without my mom, letting go of any hope of being a family with her. Read books on mental health and complex post-traumatic stress disorder to understand my dad's and my own mental states and to cope with the damage my mother's severe mental illness caused during their divorce. Story 117. I made a crude remark. It was a way of saying I would have dated some of the women who were clearly interested in me, but I missed the opportunity. Story 118. Learn how to safely invest money earlier in life. $1,500 that you can set aside at age 18 from a summer job can grow to $40,000 by the time you retire if you invest in sensible, high-yield options. Story 119. I would have put everything into playing music. I would have lived in a van and eaten ramen. At least I would have tried 110%. Middle-class life was just too comfortable and made me fearful of going off the deep end. My brother and I had real talent, good looks, and everything we needed except the nerve to jump in headfirst. I would also have gotten sex out of my system. Story 120. I would buy some bitcoins when they were less than 30 each. Story 121. For me, save money, exercise daily, study medicine rather than engineering, be more sociable. Story 122. Never make a major decision because of your feelings for a boyfriend. Story 123. Avoid drugs, keep my current job, exercise regularly, get to know more people and have more fun while maintaining my responsibilities. Story 124. Do not commit a felony. You'll be ruined for the rest of your life. Story 125. Nearly 12 years. 1. Do not spend as much on Magic or League. 2. Do not rush into marriage like I did. 3. When I break up with someone, that is it. 4. Transition earlier. 5. I tell myself it does not get any better. Story 126. I would get a diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder as soon as possible instead of waiting 12 years. Story 127. I would definitely have invested and transferred my contract from part-time to full-time because I was working full-time hours. I earned a lot of money for an 18-year-old, but I spent all my savings on university items like textbooks that I later discovered I did not need. Everything else I would do the same. I just wish I had invested my savings and shown better foresight. Story 128. 18? Not early enough. Mistakes were already made. Maybe try 5. A 5-year-old me with the knowledge of my 42-year-old self would go a long way toward preventing bullying and staying fit. Story 129. Nothing. I would be absolutely terrified that I wouldn't be able to replicate everything or meet my fiancé at the right time. Story 130. I wish I had taken life more seriously. I thought, oh well, who cares if I fail? I am not going to be here for much longer. I was deeply depressed at that time. 5 years later, I am still alive and horribly struggling in many ways. I wish I had known I would still be here. I know that sounds corny, but it is true. Story 131. I finished my English degree. I did not get together with the girl from Lake Charles. I joined a band in Phoenix, managed their merchandise, and traveled across the country. Story 132. I changed career paths. I went to community college and earned an associate's degree in electronics. I did okay. I owned 4 new cars, 2 new houses, 1 used house, 2 used SUVs, and 2 used cars. I am married and have 2 sons who are both adults and out of the house. I wish I had chosen a career in the medical field, which most likely would have kept me from being unemployed. I would have become a male nurse and moved forward from there. Story 133. Damn, that was 6 years ago to the day. Becoming 18 again would be complicated because I do not know what would change. Would I have to go back to school? I cannot identify the mistakes I made during that time because coronavirus disease 2019 disrupted everything. Story 134. I would not spend the next 18 years turning habitual drinking into profound alcoholism. Also, save more. Story 135. When I was 18 in 1998, I sold $10,000 worth of Apple stock to travel around Southeast Asia for a couple of months with my brother. The experience changed me, bringing humility and a new perspective. When we returned, we drifted apart, broke up our band, and abandoned music. I went to art school and later moved to Spain, where I now live as the father of 4. I have never since felt the electric excitement I had at 18 before that trip. I yearn to relive that time of pure artistic pursuit with nothing tying me down. This summer, visiting my hometown, I saw our ghosts by the old warehouse where we used to play music. Story 136. If I were 18, I would have nearly 2 years left with my mum. I would try to get to know her as more than my mum, ask her to tell me her stories and write down her recipes. I would have more meaningful conversations and spend her last evening with her instead of watching a stupid mafia movie with my friends. Story 137. Use a condom. Of course, we were married for 35 years, so it worked out in the end. Still, being in your 20s, working and attending college is not easy. Story 138. I would have much more sex. I would care much less about what other people think. I would travel more, even on a shoestring. I would let my nerd flag fly. I would spend more time outdoors. Story 139. Leave him. Do not cheat. Get your credit in order. Being independent is great, but do not push people away who are just trying to help. Story 140. I will avoid risky investments such as investing in Bitcoin. 1. Join a branch of the military and work in information technology for them. I am aware it can be toxic, but I believe the housing and tuition reimbursement are worth it and it will provide relevant experience. 2. After service, attend college with tuition paid and enjoy the college experience. 3. Attempt to get a job with the same company I work for now. 4. During this time, try to find a life partner and possibly start a family. 5. Once I have saved enough cash, buy a house, possibly in a state I enjoyed, such as where I attended college or was stationed. 6. Learn as many hobbies and skills as I can, such as cooking, carpentry, and mechanical skills. Story 141. Never make friends with the stupid, worthless human beings I called friends. Save more money and talk to girls more. Story 142. I would try to figure out how and why 2 girlfriends and my wife of 13 years cheated on me. Story 143. Join the military or a construction apprenticeship. Go to college when I had the money and a clue as to what I wanted to be. Story 144. 1. Save money. 2. Avoid vocational school. 3. Step down sooner as head instructor of the World Taekwondo Federation. 4. Travel more and dance more. Story 145. Invest in Bitcoin. Practice preventive healthcare. Find a better college focus. Save money as if the world is on fire. Laugh out loud. Spend more time with my parents, of course. Story 146. Step 1. Invest in Bitcoin and win the lottery. Step 2. Have fun. Story 147. I would have earned a degree in a field I enjoyed and focused on staying healthy. Story 148. I am afraid that most of my worst mistakes happened before I turned 18. Story 149. Am I going back to when I was 18 and starting over? Or am I 18 here in 2024? Story 150. That depends. Do I go back to age 18 with the knowledge I have now? That would imply my 18-year-old brain had aged considerably, so by the time I reached my current age I might be senile. In any case, I would capitalize on my skills to earn much more money, avoid social faux pas, and hug my mother. Story 151. I am 19 and still struggling financially. I would focus on improving my finances so I can start a family sooner. Story 152. I have no access to mental health care. Make peace with my mother. Stop drinking. From now on I will focus solely on art and write my book. Move to the USA instead of Europe. Never live with a partner. We will both save for 12 years. Save money and do not buy a house. Work hard to overcome crippling depression so I can reclaim 15 years of happy life I lost in the darkness. Story 153. Focus on yourself and prioritize your school and work opportunities and hobbies you enjoy. Please avoid relationships or making another person your priority. That sidetracked me. I began neglecting my goals and now regret it. It is still not too late. I am in my mid-20s. I wish I had figured this out sooner, but I needed to experience it to truly believe it instead of just hearing others say the same thing. Story 154. I love where I'm at and I wouldn't change anything because one little change would change everything. Story 155. Quit smoking and drinking alcohol as early as possible. Start a retirement fund. Eat healthier and exercise regularly. Story 156. I would spend more time talking to my dad. He passed away when I was 21. Story 157. I take this deal so fast it would make your head spin. I choose a different major, maybe at a different college. I have a little less fun while I was there and dedicate more time to my degree. I'd get an irreversible vasectomy. I'd probably never get married. I'd stay active and involved in sports. I'd stay more involved with my friends, going out and having fun. I'd find a nice little town, buy a small house with a large plot of land, and live on it forever. Story 158. I probably would have come out sooner and started dating women instead of men. Story 159. I would have tried harder at school and followed everything mentioned above. Story 160. I probably should not have chosen psychology. I should have continued my treatment so that my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder would be under control and I could have been braver. Life is okay, but there is no potential in my future. Story 161. Looking back, I would have shortened the time it took to finish college or spent my spare time learning a trade. Also, be aware of the mom trap. Leave immediately and get to work. Story 162. Invest. Learn a trade. Do not settle for less. Start paddle boarding earlier. Protect my hearing when playing in a band. Story 163. 1. Obtain more licenses. 2. Submit more job applications. 3. Buy some Bitcoin if my memories transfer back. 4. Move out of my family home at the first opportunity. 5. Get more involved in politics. It is surprisingly more important than I thought. Story 164. Do not date the asshole I still hear from 40 years later. Story 165. Choose a college major that would help me. Spend more time with my father while I could. Story 166. Get help earlier. If I had started therapy earlier, things would be easier today. Story 167. I would not change a single thing. My life is a series of mistakes and lessons that have brought me closer to whatever you want to call it. The universe, God, Allah, Mother Earth, or Source. Sure, I could change 100 mistakes, have an easier life, and learn less. Every person I have loved and lost is a bright light I carry with me every day. Story 168. 1. End relationships with toxic friends. 2. Stop spending so much money on someone I knew I was not building a future with. 3. Do not change my future plans to revolve around someone who would not have done the same. 4. Save money. 5. Stop letting other people control my life. Story 169. Save money. Buy life insurance before age 21 in case I am diagnosed with cancer. Avoid wasting years on alcohol and drug use. Hold my parents close and never stop telling them I love them. Story 170. I would probably do nothing because I met my future husband, became pregnant with his child, and would not change a thing. Story 171. 1. Prioritize education and hobbies. 2. Spend time with intellectually curious peers instead of those who are only socially popular. 3. Avoid romantic relationships with unsuitable partners. Story 172. Party just as hard until my late 20s. Try to save some money. Spend more time with family. Take a career break and travel solo for a year before 30. Story 173. Do not drink or smoke, and do not allow these behaviors to take precedence over everything in my life. Story 174. Aside from the obvious hindsight about investing my money perfectly, the cliché of not worrying about what other people think would help a lot. We all seem to learn that lesson too late. Story 175. I would not change anything. I like who I am. My life experiences contributed to that. If things had been different, I only know they would have been different, not better. Story 176. Spending money, going to college and taking out loans, not losing weight quickly, and using more drugs. Story 177. I am 18 now and I am thinking about starting my life over again. Story 178. Plenty. First, I would never start smoking or develop a taste for beer. I would save and, damn well, buy a house as soon as possible. Story 179. I would have started using drugs and partying when I was young enough to hang out with the cool kids. Instead, I thought I was better than everyone and that drugs were bad, so I did not enter the partying phase until people I knew had already grown out of it and gotten married. Now I am 35, wishing I could have had the same fun others had. I am just waiting for life to be over at this point. Story 180. If I were 18, I would stay in college, avoid dating and marriage, attend law school, and be successful. Story 181. Avoid drugs and alcohol. Set a goal and work toward it consistently. Story 182. 1. See a psychiatrist about my mood problems. I am not just down in the dumps. I have bipolar disorder. 2. Skip college and attend trade school to become an esthetician. 3. Do not date Jim. He can go fuck himself. 4. Warn my parents that my brother will die if he becomes friends with Steve. Intervene in my brother's life so he will not choose drugs. Steve can go fuck himself. Story 183. If I were to change my life, I would have to be born again at age 0 and rebuild it from the ground up. I had already ruined my life by 18. Story 184. Drop the degree and do something vocational. It was not even a fun degree. I graduated at the height of the economic downturn into a vastly competitive field and never stood a chance. I spent the last 10 to 15 years just getting by and finally retrained in a new field. I constantly feel I am at least 10 years behind my peers. Story 185. 1. No drinking. I became an alcoholic but have been sober for 3 to 4 months now. I got a driving under the influence charge and I learned my lesson. 2. I realized who my real friends were, but I had not noticed that people were using me. When I needed them, they abandoned me. 3. I wanted to go to mechanic school instead of the office job I had started. Then the pandemic came and I am not the type to be able to work from home. To be honest, I would have been a slacker. 4. I did not get a car loan because it would have ruined my credit. The payments and insurance were expensive. I also lost a job, so it was not helpful at the time. Things are better now with work, but I wish I could have done better in the other areas. Story 186. I would make a lot of different mistakes just to see how life turns out. I would try to take more care of my body. I would fuck around a lot more. I would probably buy my mother's rental if the opportunity presents itself again. I would finish my degree the first time around. Story 187. Get a college degree in a field that pays well. Story 188. I would invest in a baking and confectionery course, get a job, and move on with my life without looking back too much. Story 189. At 18, I was set in my ways, but I would choose a different college and save $100,000. Without that debt, I would buy a 3-family house in Massachusetts. If I could go back to 15, I would never break up with the one that got away. We would be a power couple, with her as a real estate mogul and me as an engineer rising through the ranks in state politics. Story 191. Focus on my education. 2. Cut off toxic friends. 3. Build better connections. 4. Save all my money and invest it once I have enough. Story 191. 1. Take care of my health. I managed to damage it and I'm only 33. 2. Take better care of the person I love who I drove away. 3. Keep my friends close and never lose contact with the people I love. 4. Apply myself to something. I feel I have the energy and ability to go the distance but lack discipline. Story 192. Would not change a thing. I love my life. Great spouse and fantastic kids. I could not be happier. Story 193. I wouldn't change much, but I would adopt many more dogs. I only adopted my first dog, a lovely Boston Terrier and Pug mix, at the age of 50 and feel like I missed out on so much unconditional love and fun. Story 194. I ended a toxic relationship and later dated my now husband. We graduated together. I saved more money. I stayed in college. Story 195. Instead of college, I did not graduate and I would have gone to trade school. I wanted to prove I could do it, but I could not. Now I have $35,000 to pay back, which is a big burden, but it is my fault. At 33, I am fairly sure I would have been better off. Story 196. Finish school even though I knew I wanted to pursue a different career. Also save money instead of treating myself every time I see something I like. Story 197. 1. Study more in college. 2. Save money. 3. Keep writing short stories. 4. Changed my major from business administration to mathematics so I would not have to catch up so much when computer science became a major. 5. Kept my car keys away from my little sister's friends. 6. Told my mother's boyfriend to leave. Story 198. Buy Bitcoin. Do not smoke cannabis until later in my adulthood. I got too lazy. Story 199. I'm 24, almost 25, so I know I'm not that old, but I have 2 main lessons. Take risks. Every significant path I have taken so far resulted from a risk I was afraid to take and doubted I could take. The outcomes were almost always positive. They led to some of my greatest experiences, and even when they did not, I felt the strong come-down feeling of pride and contentment that follows taking a risk, a walking-on-air feeling. Take more risks. Prioritize my health and fitness. Not because I'm riddled with ailments now, but because in the self-obsessed and vain world we live in, being well put together makes life easier and affects how people respond to you. For example, when I was healthier and a bit more muscular, I felt confident, and that confidence improved other aspects of my life. Made it easier to make friends, helped in job interviews, and made relationships easier. That had a positive impact on my mood, creating a beneficial feedback loop with better sleep, less stress, and improved diet. I entered a relationship, gained weight, and lost my confidence. This left me in a bit of a hole I'm still trying to pull myself out of. Story 200. I will take more pictures and save all those rave flyers. Story 201. I would not get married. Instead, I would teach myself about finances and then pursue software engineering immediately. Story 202. Stay in my hometown and do not move back in with my dad. while continuing to work at the cafe and remain in college using financial aid. Let the money accumulate and keep my old car even if the transmission fails. Continue training at the gym and bulk up, and end that relationship as soon as possible. Get a haircut. Focus on being better because I have matured compared to last year. Do not speed or get more traffic tickets. Story 203. I would have skipped military service. My body was broken before age 40, and I probably would have become a dentist. I wanted to be a teacher for a long time, but I dislike the behavior of the students. Story 204. I wouldn't change a thing. For all the fucked up shit and mistakes I made, this road brought me to my daughter. That tiny little gremlin single-handedly unlocked my maximum effort mode, and the more I focus on providing for her, the more I change both of our lives. Story 205. Don't get stuck in relationships. Many people are available to date at that age. Being afraid of change is the biggest mistake you can make. Story 206. I have made mistakes, but I would change nothing. What I have learned will help me make a better future. Story 207. I would make sure to get a job. The biggest mistake I made at 18 was avoiding work and focusing only on education. It should have been more balanced between college and work. I should have gotten a part-time job in a shop. Story 2081. End my relationship with my girlfriend and attend college. 2. Go to therapy. 3. Start hormone replacement therapy. 4. Realize I can do things alone and attend many more shows. Story 209. I would not use hard drugs. My memory is terrible and I struggle with clenching my teeth. I never had that problem before I used Molly. Story 210. I would not attend an expensive private film school or enter the film industry. Instead, I would attend a state school and study urban planning. Story 211. If I were 18 again today, I would invest heavily in Bitcoin, withdraw before a bust, and move the funds into a diversified investment portfolio. I would also start learning programming, information technology, and data science earlier. I should have known I would end up working in that field and prepared sooner. Story 212. Stop being afraid of living and stop listening to my mom. Stick with the same college degree program but get information technology certifications as well since it makes me much happier. Make sure I still end up working with my brother at the call center. Avoid the pretty boy and ask out the nice guy. I ended up marrying him, but not without some resistance on my part. Story 213. Save money. Get better haircuts. Start going to the gym. Be more confident and less socially awkward. Story 214. I would go to college, be much more active to avoid gaining the weight I did, and stop drinking soda every day. Story 215. Study harder and choose a more lucrative degree, save more, and retire earlier, or at least have a part-time career such as consulting. I spent money on many things I thought would bring joy, but the joy was fleeting. I enjoy my career, but it is still work. What I value most is free time, time with family, and being outdoors in nature. Story 216. Use my knowledge of health and exercise now instead of waiting until later. Do not wait another 20 years to start meditating. Apply my lessons on learning new skills that took me almost 40 years to master. Also, hold on to cathode ray tube displays. They are going to be excellent gaming displays for decades to come. Story 217. No drugs. Take school seriously. Ditch about half of my friends. Enjoy life. Story 218. Break up with my girlfriend at the time and focus on my studies. Get a job and apply to opportunities abroad sooner. Story 219. 1. Go to school. 2. Let go of the fear of my cancer killing me and just live every day until it does. I have lived 27 years with cancer. I will not let it control me. 3. Hold on to the girl I broke up with. She is still the one regret I have. 4. Address my mental health issues before they become the problems I have now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.